Hey, folks, and we're back. Welcome to another Wednesday Night Live with the lads, the boys, the homies, us,
the dudes.
Yep. Well, it's been kind of an interesting last few days on so many different facets in regards to what's going on in the world. James, is there anything? Has there been any exciting news? Has there been anything that's any maybe political?
Nice nap today. It was nice, and yesterday I went for a short little walk in the sunshine. Is that what you're talking about? I didn't think that was news though. Like I just thought that was Wednesday.
That's just Wednesday. Well, no. So that is important stuff. I'm glad you're doing a little self-reflection and focusing on you. Selfish. Yeah, I see that. Well, no, we got Donnie in Mar-a-Lago seems to be in the news again. Quite the spot. Like if you get an opportunity to see the compound, quite the spot. Yeah. But apparently some 3-letter acronyms paid him a little visit unannounced.
Yeah. I heard they broke into his safe. His security detail that was there because he wasn't. I guess security detail is still there even though he's not.
Right.
They were given warning just before, so they kind of backed up and let everyone walk in because there was an official warrant.
Right.
So it was illegal. A judge decided. Well, the FBI decided.
The biggest online casino host.
Sorry.
Online casino, is it? The FBI made a case. The judge signed off on it. A warrant was issued, and the FBI acted upon it. The Secret Service backed off to allow it to happen, and the whole time Trump wasn't there. So, and apparently they got the files that they needed.
So Trump was where?
I really don't know. New York.
Trump's in New York, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Trump's had a week. So he was deposed today. And for those of you who don't know what a deposition is that when you go through either a criminal or even a civil process, you are questioned by the prosecutor or the other lawyers if it's a civil suit. So former President Donald Trump today spent, I believe it was between 5 and 6 hours before a New York attorney general. So
we got tons of information from him. Like he told them all the information they needed to know and answered all the questions. And
it sounds like he just told them to go after their hat, but yeah. So that's kind of what it sounds like. So there's a lot of stuff, and again, I don't mind Donnie. I think Don was a pretty decent president. I know that that might come across as shocking to a lot of people. And
yeah, there's lots of people out there that are shocked that you like Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they're crazy.
So why is he in before the courts in New York?
Well, so I think they're trying to put a case against him, and
I don't want what I think. It's a legal proceeding. So he's not before the actual court. He's in
a deposition,
whether or not there's a case. Right. That's what the deposition.
Right. So they're asking questions. So a deposition is, especially if it's criminal, is basically a fact-finding mission where you get to go in and have a conversation with them. You go in with your lawyer and have a discussion. Right. But depositions are pretty important during civil proceedings. So civil, the difference between civil and criminal is a civil proceeding is like between me and you in an agreement, a purchase, a legal binding arbitration or contract, that sort of thing. A criminal deposition is when you go in and they're trying to take whatever evidence or questions I have for you, getting those answers, and then they take them to what's called a grand jury in the United States.
Right.
We don't do that. We have a slightly different process here. Either the prosecutor in Canada, we have a prosecutor who decides if he has a case or not and kind of goes from there. It's a little different.
Yeah.
The issue arises. So Mar-a-Lago and the deposition in New York are two very different things. So the first one we'll talk. Sorry?
Or similar. Like they could be working hand in hand even though they're separate.
Well, so the FBI is a federal body, and that's who raided. Right. And then you have the AG in New York who's deposing Trump, which is like a municipal, if you will.
But what I'm saying is if they actually did find something damning that would fit the case in New York, it could be used.
Sure. Yeah. Like if Donald Trump went in there and said, like, the gun is under the safe, the smoking gun, obviously, then that would probably, the FBI would be able to use that because it would be public record, right? So the issue that I have with this, and again, first of all, let's start with the New York stuff, and then we'll go to kind of the Mar-a-Lago stuff, because I think they're kind of one and the same. So the deposition in New York is being done by an attorney general who has been very outward in her viewpoints on Donald Trump for a very long time. And I'm going to show you guys a quick little clip here.
And you were saying that AGs are elected officials. It's not something they get because they don't. They're not hired for the position; they're elected to the position.
Well, so they end up in a situation where the attorney general is an appointed position, but all the way up through that process is there's an election to get there.
Okay.
So the woman that I want to bring up here right now, and this is just this is the clip that they had.
We make it a little.
Looking for royalty-free music? Discover Epidemic Sound.
No affiliation with royalty-free music.
Police.
Sorry?
We have no affiliation with royalty-free music, just so everyone knows. That was a YouTube clip. Now, so I'm just going to comment on to attack President Trump. That's kind of this is definitely not like
this is
general media.
So Breitbart Media is I would argue, is a conservative news agency.
Yes.
Started by a man with the last name of Breitbart years ago, and Andrew Breitbart was his name. And they've put a bunch of clips together of this attorney general. So let's just take 30 seconds and kind of hear.
But before you do this is exactly what you've been complaining about that the people have been doing to Trump.
Yeah, but you don't get it both ways.
I'm not saying you get it both ways, but I'm just saying if I'm going to complain about someone doing something to someone, then I wouldn't do it to them. But play the clip.
Right. So what at the end of the day is that this is the problem with the media, is that they come out and they spin their story, and then there's never a backstory to it. Then they take the 24-hour talking heads on CNN and all of the news agency, the left news agencies, and they spin it however they want with innuendo and attack and fact. So this is the attorney general who is now investigating Donald Trump. So let's play this.
Sue him for us? Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president. We need to focus on Donald Trump. We need to follow his money.
What is fueling my soul right now is Trump.
This illegitimate president. I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, and then going home.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, that is not somebody who is going in. Remember the old statue, the scales of justice?
Former President Donald Trump appeared in Manhattan today for a court.
Having some tech problems,
right?
Prosecutors out there, we have those moments.
Yeah. So this is like the scales of justice. Justice is supposed to be blind. You're supposed to go in and follow the evidence. You're supposed to go in and the old scales of justice with the blindfold on, and whatever weighs more is more truth. And this is the person who is now prosecuting the former president, Donald Trump.
So I would argue that the judge is supposed to be blind. I agree with you.
The whole legal process
is blind. But when someone goes in to try a case, whether they're the attorney general or not, they're biased. They have a side that they need to tell. And although you're right, they should be keeping personal opinion out of it.
So it should be evidence. It should be evidence. So any professional attorney, defense or prosecution, should have a bit of a stoicism about them in regards to the legal system that they represent. So when you go out, like that looks like a Democrat campaign.
It does look like she's campaigning for something, but it could be taken from the times that she was campaigning, because as you said, she had to campaign at some point to get up to the level, and then she was appointed, right?
Right. So as you're going through that process, now we've heard the word recuse a lot in political stuff lately, and it's when there's a bias or a predisposition to judgment that would step in and say, hey, listen, I don't like Donald Trump. I am very biased in my opinion on this, and therefore I'm in a position where my authority my judgment could probably be hindered.
So in the big time cases that have happened, the FBI, the head of FBI recused himself, or should have recused himself at one point. And
Well, so this
there
goes
was a judge.
Yeah, so this goes back to the attorney general who recused himself during the Trump stuff over the Ukraine phone call and all of this.
Right.
He stepped back, and Trump ended up firing him because he's like, in one sentence, you could have said, no, this was all bullshit. And instead you didn't, because you tried to play fair.
Right.
You tried to play with crux. So my argument is that, so you have the Republicans on this hand that are recusing themselves in situations, playing by the rules and saying, no, it's not my position. I work for Trump. I was appointed by Trump. I need to recuse myself from this situation because I could be biased. And then you have this. This is the right. And the media is not going to play that. They're going to sit and talk all day about how Donald Trump went in there and pled the fifth instead of playing that. And so the Fifth Amendment is a self-incrimination protection. You don't have to speak to anybody, right?
Well, it's not necessarily self-incriminating. It can be, but it also means that you don't want to comment on it. It does not. A lot of people decide that the Fifth, because the Fifth's been pled many times, they feel like, oh, if you plead the Fifth, you're guilty.
Right. And
that's not the case. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're pleading the Fifth because it will incriminate you. It could be you have to plead the Fifth, like in the case of Donald Trump, because he was a sitting president. There's information that he has that if you were asked the wrong question, he'd have to plead the Fifth. Not that I'm defending Donald Trump, not at all, but it doesn't necessarily mean anyone's guilty. A lot of people are like, oh, they pled the Fifth. They're guilty. But that's not it.
The Fifth Amendment is it goes along with, illegal search and seizures, right? Yeah. It is that you do not have to talk to the police. Like, there's nobody that's going to waterboard you or beat you or anything like that to get a confession from you. You do not have to talk. You do not have to partake in potentially self-incriminating. You don't have to talk. And that's the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. It's a fundamental right and freedom of American citizens. The issue arises is that and you and I talked very briefly about this before, but it goes to why people, even if they disagree with Donald Trump, his actions, the way that he goes about it, politically, if you disagree maybe with some of the things that he does or says, you start going like, stop making him a martyr. Like, you're setting this guy, like, leave him alone. Leave him alone. He will be far less powerful. And
he's saying himself. I've told you that for years. If they just let him talk and stop snipping him up and they just listen to his actual words, he'd be torn apart. But the fact that they keep on putting out this false, like I've seen it, they've taken his words out of context. They've decided that his words mean something that they're not. And at the end of the day, smart people can see through it. And then if you side with Trump, that's just fueling your fire. And this is one of those things. If that warrant, and I hope that, well, we're not talking about that warrant right now, but if this turns out to be just like we're just trying to find something that isn't there and there is no real case, again, because this has happened before too, between them and Trump, then that's just going to fuel the fire for the people who are like, see, they're out to get him. That's the Democrats. They're starting to like trump up more allegations that aren't true. Right. When really all they have to do is like take their time and investigate. But they're in such a hurry to stop him when he could stop himself. Like, it's so like ridiculous that he would do this.
But does it lead to, so he Donald Trump used to call he used the words a cabal and deep state. He used that a lot. And that goes back to like now when you start to see this stuff, and we're going to talk about Mar-a-Lago in a minute and kind of the ridiculousness of it at the end of the day, if kind of what we're hearing is truthful. Like, it very much feels like that now that he's out of office, 90 days before a midterm election, they're going after him again. What were they doing when he was the president? Like, they weren't sitting back. Like, that was clips while he was president. Like, if that woman had the opportunity to throw shit at him, she would have. Like, there's no question. So what else was going on? So the Mar-a-Lago stuff becomes.
Well, so I don't know that anything else is going on, but it does.
Oh, but does it apply? Does it imply that there could be?
There could be, absolutely. If she has no basis in New York to bring him to trial, and this is just like oh, you know what, we're gonna put his name negatively in the public so that the Republicans don't do as well in the midterms, then yes, they're just adding fuel to the fire. Like if they're just hoping they'll find something, this is a huge mistake.
See, I would argue
she does have something, then she's doing her job, and there's nothing wrong with that. She should be doing her job.
I would argue that if he pulled a gun downtown Manhattan and shot a family of 5, she in her position could not get a judge or a jury to condemn him because of her political leaning bias anyways. So it's not going to matter, right? Like all you would do as a defense attorney is go, click. Is this you? Is this you saying that you're going to do everything you possibly can to get Donald Trump once you get this job as the Attorney General? Right? And a jury has to stand there and go, ooh, like, we're pretty sure he shot those people, but like,
I don't think you're right about that, but I see what you're saying about the bias. Is right. She is biased. It's obvious she's biased. Absolutely. And
then,
I don't know enough about the law.
Then uphold the justice that you are there to undertake, right? And recuse yourself, step down, and have somebody who is not a biased prosecutor step in and try the case. You cannot have this. That is the breaking of the judicial fundamentals. They are supposed to be impartial. If you are not impartial, then the justice system falls apart. And this is where we talk about the weaponization of the judicial system. And this is what we're going to get to with the FBI.
I just don't know that being a prosecutor, you have to be non-biased. Like you have an opinion because you're trying. Now, in this case, what you're trying to say is she had an opinion before. She had no evidence. She had nothing. It was more, I'm going to investigate him until I find something wrong, and then I'm going to pounce on him.
Well, okay, so if you
have a problem.
If your bias is that you are anti-mafia and you're prosecuting the mafia, there is a criminal justice statute that goes exactly around the parameters of what the mafia are doing. Okay? You got money laundering, racketeering, tax evasion, all of these things. These are parameters. And you can come out and you can say, because the entire world is like, yeah, mob's not great.
Not great. No.
Not great. The problem is that politically speaking, this is shit you see in third world countries, right? Where you go after your political enemy through criminal courts, through these, and call them kangaroo courts if they're not based in law and justice, right? They become a joke. It becomes a banana republic if you're going to go after your potential political rival. And this is where, like, we got to get back to the Mar-a-Lago thing, because this is where it gets so crazy. Yeah. So first of all, the process that underwent in Mar-a-Lago is there was a warrant that was signed by a Florida magistrate that allowed the FBI to go into Mar-a-Lago and search. Okay. So the first thing.
Well, we haven't been told what the search warrant was looking for or what they were allowed to look at.
Right. So the implication that's being put out there is that the records department under Nixon, we had Watergate, if everyone remembers Watergate. And there was a law that was passed that if you are the president of the United States, anything that you write, any memos, any notes, any calls, anything is documented and kept for posterity forever. And it's a part of the record that goes on as the record of America. And the concept is that if there is something that is problematic, the records department can go back and say, okay, this is a problem. We got to deal with this. This is why X's and O's, right? So the Mar-a-Lago process, from what I've heard from both sides, CNN, Fox, everyone has been saying that Donald Trump, when he left the White House, he left with approximately 15 boxes of materials that he took with him down to Mar-a-Lago. Okay. So the viewpoint is that CNN is going out and saying that these are highly classified, sensitive documents. Fox is coming out and saying is that Donald Trump, he takes notes. He's very involved in everything that goes on there. And he's a doodler. Like, he's always constantly doing things when he's in meetings. All of those doodles, all of those notes, all of those highly classified documents, whatever side you want to take here, that apparently is what's in these 15 boxes that went down to Mar-a-Lago. And they need to be held by the the federal records department in posterity. Okay.
So are we aware? Because this is what, from what I've been seeing, is they're not even aware if he was asked first. If it was like, hey, can you give us back those 15 boxes you have, or if they just raided them.
So I've heard both. I've heard that there was a negotiation going back and forth,
right,
and that there was not. So I've heard both. Again, we don't know everything, but we have to go with the information we have, and I'm implying a finding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So CNN, I'm going to take the worst case scenario. Donald Trump's a monster, and he's the nuclear codes are in the box, and he's just an asshole. And remember, sorry.
So the truth. You're going to go with the truth today?
Apparently, yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. So let's go with that. Let's go with the craziest thing you can come up with. Like,
or the truth.
Who killed JFK is in that fucking box.
In the box, right there.
Right. So highly sensified, classified documents. Donald Trump is an asshole, all that sort of thing. So under the executive branch, the presidency, Donald Trump gets to decide what is classified, declassified, or unclassified. So there's 3 different branches. Declassified is like there's different branches that it goes down. Unclassified is that there's just no classification, and then whether you're going to classify something in the first place. Okay, so if the FBI goes into Donald Trump's house to get top secret information from the guy who gets to executive branch order decide what's this is where it gets funny though, right? Gets to decide what is classified or unclassified or declassified, it's moronic. Like, and the only thing I can see is like Donnie as he's like moving out of the White House, right? He's got 15 boxes, a bunch of guys, and he's just yelling, declassified, as he's walking at the door, declassified.
Like I can totally see that. I can see that. Yeah. Right.
So
he's grabbing the Mona Lisa and going declassified and walking out with it in Arizona.
Right. So if this is the case that these materials are super important, sure. Should there have been maybe a better process in place to do this? Sure. Right?
Yeah.
You raided the ex-president of the United States 3 months before the midterm elections, which right now they're like the Republicans are cleaning house. Like it's not really even going to be close. Nobody thinks it's going to be close. That was how you went about it? Like, even if he said, nah, you're not getting them back. You're not getting them back ever. It's not a thing. Not a thing.
Right.
Fuck yourself. I'm not giving them back to you. You raided the ex-president of the United States.
Yeah. I personally, leaning left, not liking Trump, none of that.
Yeah.
I hope that there was a legal precedent. I hope that something that whoever signed the warrant was on the up and up, and it was a legitimate warrant that the FBI was acting upon. I hope all that, because if it's not, it's going to be devastating for the Democrats. It'll be too bad, because it's not necessarily the Democrats doing it. I know that's what you're implying. It could be the FBI is making a mistake. Could be a group of people in the FBI who have decided that, we have to get Donald Trump. It could be just like you said, bad timing, and the records department was like, oh, we need those boxes back. Who knows? But either way, if they don't have legal precedents, they don't have a real reason to do it, it's not going to help in any way, because it's really going to raise Donald Trump's base. And it's also going to take some people a pause. Like, I can see people going, oh, that's not okay. Right. Like, if you're doing this, we don't want that.
Like normal people.
Yeah. Right. Like normal people who are like Biden leaning, think that, Donald Trump's an asshole, will start going, whoa, that's not okay. Like, if you can walk into the president's house for no reason and take papers, that's not good. Now, if they do have legal, which they should, that's what I think, that there was a legal case. The judge signed it. It was all on the up and up. They're going to find what they need to find. It'll be case closed. Move on. Let's keep going. If that's what it was, then great. That's the way it should work.
So and here we go with more information. So the judge, the magistrate in Florida, the way that Florida law works, because you got to remember, here in Canada, we have the Criminal Code of Canada that stretches from coast to coast to coast. In the States, it's by state. It's very different.
Yes.
So the magistrate who signed the warrant, his name was Bruce Reinhardt, and Brucey Boy has a bit of a tenuous past. Brucey Boy was a prosecutor in Florida for a number of years, opened a private criminal practice, a defense practice, and he represented Mr. Epstein, as well as some of former employees of Mr. Epstein. So those of you who don't know who Mr. Jeffrey Epstein is, one of the most notorious child sex traffickers ever. It's a shady fucking situation. Like these people, it's shady, and you're not hearing this stuff.
Yeah.
This is the problem that I have. And like we said earlier, is that your viewpoint is that if you leave Donald Trump alone, he sinks in his own shit.
Absolutely.
And I, in a lot of ways, I totally agree with you, but it solidifies his base to 5 minutes on Google, and you can find out who all these people are, and you go, what? Like it's very transparent that this is being militarized. And that's what I'm
transparent as being militarized. I think it could be seen that way if they don't have a legal, just because a judge represented Epstein, you have to get legal representation. Everyone deserves that, even like nasty,
don't disagree,
nasty men who traffic children for the elite deserve someone to represent them. So that I don't think that's relevant at all. But I do think that
no. But this isn't what my point is that this isn't a group of patriots. This isn't. You have the AG that we just watched. The bias is real. You had
Trump. That doesn't mean that she's not a patriot. It means she's trying to protect her country from him,
from the president.
That's what a lot of people believe. That Trump we needed to protect her. Well, not we, because I'm not American. I think we need to protect our Canada from Justin Trudeau. But I do not believe, but there are people in America who think that they need to protect America from Trump. And that's what she was talking about, that we need to protect America from Trump because he was doing things that were, in their viewpoint, were anti-America. Right?
So how much
it's not patriotic.
Well, but it is. So you know that I am not a fan of Mr. Trudeau.
I know that.
Yeah, you know that.
Oh,
I'm asking a question. There's a question mark at the end of that statement. Like you.
No, I know. Yeah. I totally do. I'm not either.
I think what he's done over the last number of years is criminal. I don't think that when you leave office, that the next administration, whether it be conservative, liberal, NDP, or a dog, doesn't matter, goes after you in hindsight for your past problems. And the reason that is that it's a peaceful transition of power. The people voted you out. You're done. You're done. Right. You're out. So Donald Trump is out. Now, if you think that, and I'm putting this back on Trudeau because, right, we can all be on the same boat here, is that if you think that criminal actions happened under Trudeau, it would be a huge stretch to try to go after a criminal prosecution and not have it be completely viewed as political bias. Now, I switched that with Donald Trump after 6 years of being told what a criminal and what an asshole and all these sorts of things, right? Because that's what the media has told us all for 6 or 7 years now.
Sure.
Well, but that's what they've told us.
That's what the one side of the media has said, yes.
Right. Yes. So now they feel justified in going after him and feel that it's not political because they think that they're doing a good thing because he has to be dealt with. But it is a political thing. It's literally the epitome of politicized. And that's where you start Civil War shit.
So it is political in the fact that he is a past president. So he can't, no matter, like if we went to Subway and got him a sandwich, it's political. But it's not necessarily political in nature if he did something that was above the law. Right? If he did something criminally.
So Donald Trump
being caught for it, it doesn't matter. It's not politically driven. If in fact they find out that the like, you're absolutely right. The whole phone call with Ukraine, I believe it was, that was trumped up. That was, like, they proved it that it was trumped up. I'm aware of that, and I think it was a huge mistake back then. If this is that, then I have a serious problem with that. I don't care who's facing that.
Is it not? Is it not literally the epitome of that?
We don't know it is, because we don't know the reason behind all this stuff. We don't know the reason behind the seizure of the information, and like, we don't know for sure. Apparently, they're supposed to show us, show the warrant, and once they show the warrant, then they'll know, right? Like, do we? Like, I think you were saying is that they have to make the warrant public, or
no? It's a sealed warrant. They don't have to do anything. What people are calling for on both sides of the aisle are that this needs to be made public right now, or this is a kangaroo court and it's ridiculous.
Right.
Like that's both sides of the aisle saying that this is a problem. The issue arises is that when you have Donald Trump, who it was a multi-billionaire land developer all over the world, okay?
Yeah. You
don't like him politically, and then you go in and fraud through his taxes and his every land deal he's ever done until you think that you can find some sort of fraudulent claim. If there's no, like, so in the justice system, you have to have a complainant, right? So as a police officer, you get a phone call, you have a complaint, you have a land dispute, you have a plaintiff, you have somebody who comes along and makes a case.
Can't the city itself be the complainant?
Well, what they're saying is that, so one of the issues that I've heard, and this was seen and then implied this, and I don't believe this to be.
I don't know enough about law, so that's why.
So they're saying that one of the issues that Donald Trump, for his development processes, over exaggerated his asset worth.
Yes.
So therefore he committed fraud, and that's what they're going to go after.
So he went to a bank and said, I have $4 billion in asset. They said, okay, we're going to give you money. And you're saying that that's fraud.
That's what their case, I believe, from what I'm hearing, is based on.
That is legal fraud. You can't go to a bank and say, I make this much money, and they didn't look into it. So
is there a concern?
I'm not asking. I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. So if Donald Trump goes and he has Trump Industries, like he has Trump Incorporated, his brand, and he puts a label on that brand of $500 million. That's what the Trump brand is worth. $7 billion, right? The Trump brand is worth $7 billion. Why is that fraud?
I'm asking.
Yeah, so it's not. Like if
I go to a bank and I tell them I made $4 billion last year, I haven't been to a bank where I haven't had to prove it.
Right. So he has to substantiate that. So he's going to substantiate that. So that's what they're saying, is that if these documents are unsubstantiated,
right?
What is that? But this is the problem.
Saying that they think he provided documents to say that that his company was worth $7 million. Here are the documents, and then they gave him money. So that's where the fraud comes in. Is that
right? But what it is that they're trying to go after the Trump brand. So when Trump was going with his tax situation, they were saying, like, he had disclosed that the Trump brand itself was worth X amount of money. I'm not going to say a number because it'll be wrong. And that brand in and of itself, I would argue he could make that in hats, right? Like the boy's name everywhere. Love it, like it, whatever. He was branding his name for his hotels that he never ran, never had anything to do with. That
he was selling lousy steaks with his name.
Right. Yeah, there was an airline. There was all kinds of shit. So my question is that how do you appraise that in a tactile way that is provable or disprovable in any court level? You don't, right? You're going to have a rough estimate of what it is. Now, the fraud, and this is where we go back to some of the legal precedent that goes along here, is to have a criminal prosecution, you have to prove what's called mens rea. And we've talked about this before. Mens rea is the intent, right? So you have to prove that Donald Trump sat there and is like, Well, I know Trump entity is only worth $75, right? It's not worth fuck all. But I'm going to say that it's worth $3.4 billion, and I'm going to take that money and I'm going to run away because some stupid idiot's going to get caught. That's intent to be fraudulent, right? And your intent. That's not fucking easy, right? No. So what happens here is that this becomes very politicized. It becomes very public. We're going through how much the Trump name is worth instead of finding out like all of the co-conspirators of like Jeffrey Epstein or like all of the real things that we actually give a fuck about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like even his I don't know, girlfriend, accomplice, I don't know what the hell she was to him. She's just disappeared. Like we got to see everything. Like I've mentioned this before. Like I know what Johnny Depp ate on a certain morning, but I have no idea what happened to this woman.
Yeah.
She was there.
I know what Johnny Depp's girlfriend ate the day before.
Right? And that exactly because it was on his bed. But we know nothing about her. And you know, that does bother me because those are our children. Like, so yeah. So like I'll just keep on going back to the same thing. If this is a legal case that they can actually prove that they're going after him for a legitimate reason, it doesn't matter who's doing it.
But how big is the bar?
But in Mar-a-Lago, I'm going to hold judgment like I always do. I want to know why it went. And
so, but you bring up a really good point there. You bring up a really good point, and you're like, if they can bring a case, right? Yeah. But there should be should the case be brought, right? And that is usually the legal litmus test, right? You go, what are the pros and cons of bringing this legal action to bear? Right. And if it's only political, that's a weaponization of the judicial system, and that's so wrong.
It's also going to backfire.
But they have the media spinning it, right? And I'm literally at the point now where the talking heads on CNN and MSNBC, they don't know what to say because they don't have anything else. They're just like,
no, they're at the point of repeating the same thing, and they're just excited that Trump's in the news again. Right. Then they can say Trump. I know that's what it is. It's always that way. It's always been that way. As long as they can say Trump's name, it's a happy occurrence for them.
What's his brand worth?
Well, it brings people to the TV because they want to find out what crazy Trump said today.
So what's his brand worth?
And Republicans are no different, like Fox News and the other ones, Bart, whatever you just showed.
Right.
Yeah, but they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all spinning, and they all like Trump being in the news. They love it because it brings people to it, like you know, and other people. Not so necessarily me. This is all kind of new to me, although I did hear on the radio that Mar-a-Lago was attacked. Well, attacked. It depends on who says it.
Yeah.
It depends on who says it.
Right.
I've heard both ways. So what I'm saying is, as long as there is a reason, and they have, like, I would think if you're going after the president, like, they're not coming after me. No one's breaking in my door right now to get my son's, I don't know, crafts from when he was a kid, because, you know, no one's doing that. But if it's the president, I would think that you would go, maybe we should make sure that we have a case. Maybe we should make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, we're not going to look like fools. And I would hope that whoever has started this, whoever is doing it, which is the AG on the one side, but on the FBI side, I don't know who that is. I would hope that they sat down and went, yeah, okay, we have a strong case. We're going to go do this. And it's not just, we're going to bust in and find something. And we're going to take a chance that something's there. And so if that's what they did, that's a serious problem.
Do you remember through Trump's presidency that he was pretty outspoken in talking about the FBI and the CIA?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he bashed them. He fired one of them, I believe.
Yep, James Comey.
Yep.
Right, head of the FBI, fired him, called him he was a dog, he was a corrupt politician, all of these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Those boys don't, like, if anything I know about cops, they don't do well with that.
Right.
and they've got 7 ways to Sunday to get you.
Right.
Because you don't dot a T or cross an I, or you didn't get your insurance done the way you're supposed to have it, or the name is spelled differently on your tag. It's a ticket. Go prove it in court that it's not. But you're pretty much guilty on the side of the road until you go before a justice in Canada, right? So now
I'm not saying you're wrong in this case. I'm just saying that I would hope, because I have hope, that they sat down first and went, okay, let's take a breath. Do we actually have a case? We do? Go ahead, go do it. I'm hoping that's what happened. And if that's what happened, it doesn't matter what happens after that. As long as they can prove they had a case, then I'm down with it.
I would argue that the threshold is much higher than that.
It's higher because he's the president. They're not, like I just said, they're not coming to my place. So, there would be a moment of, do we have a thing? Yeah, we do have a thing. Come on in. For him, it's like, what's this going to look like? How can it be used against the American people? And also, we need to really have a case in order to do this because of the way it's going to look. Yeah. I think it's a huge mistake if this is just, let's go try find something, because it's just going to legitimize what she said, that they are just trying to find anything and everything to stop Donald Trump from becoming president again.
What do you think Donald Trump keeps at home in Mar-a-Lago that would be incriminating?
He totally could be keeping lots of things.
Oh, but
he's a businessman. So he could have, businessmen do sometimes. I said do. Sometimes have shady deals that happen, and there could be records of such shady deals there. There could be like very sensitive calls or sensitive codes, or could be anything. I have no idea what would be there.
The threshold that needs to happen is that if anyone else in the system is on track to be arrested for similar type crimes, they would be arrested first before an ex-sitting president of the United States of America.
Agreed.
It does not matter. You once you are elected, you become a leader of the free world. Yep. These people couldn't accept that. They fought it from every angle from before day one, right?
I don't disagree that when he started, even before he started to become president, there were people that were fighting against it. Absolutely.
The threshold has to be that he is the last guy in the room charged with criminality at all. Like everyone else before him needs to fall before him, because that maintains the judicial prudence that our system works at all levels. The problem is that they don't believe our system works, and they need central planning, one entity, the government, because the people, they don't know what's good for them. Donald Trump wasn't good for the people. So the central planners are going to take over and make sure that we don't have that problem ever again, because that was bad for America. And that's
one possibility. I agree with you that is one possibility, because that does happen. But I also think that it could be that a law was broken and they're acting upon it. And I get what you're saying, but there was a time when they did go after a bunch of people under Donald Trump, and they did, tear apart his little conclave, because they went after lawyers and stuff like that, right? That did happen already.
Yeah, sure. As soon as they got the house, they went after people.
Yeah, totally. Anyway,
hang on, there's a big piece there. There's a big piece you're missing there, is that all of those findings, 90% of those findings, is how we got to the point now where we understand that the Russia collusion was a hoax and was set up through the Clinton campaign.
Yes, but some of those people were charged.
Yes, the former lawyer was charged. But then on the other side of that, the former lawyer of because this all goes back to actually the porn star, like they were saying that it was bribery, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Like he bribed, right?
Yeah.
That's not okay. Well, her lawyer is now in jail, I think, for 27 years for blackmailing Nike. He was trying to extort Nike.
Wow.
Like these are not good fucking people. This is a system that is deeply flawed and broken, and they're standing there in a glass house firing rocks at the guy that's like, I got elected. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm like, sorry, fuck off.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing.
You're absolutely right. There's no doubt that he was elected, and unfortunately, he was the president, and mistakes were made. I don't know why they don't just leave him alone. Like, I'm so
because he's going to run again and win.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
I do.
I think if they just left him alone and went, this is what Donald Trump said today, take a listen. And logical, smart people, doesn't matter if you're Republican or not, sat there and listened to a whole speech of Trump, which I have, you'll go, no, I don't want that guy running anything.
You can't
really would.
But you can't look around the world right now, man, and say that everyone is excited about Joe Biden and the way the world's gone in the last year.
They're not. No.
So Donald Trump.
There are a lot of people that are wishing that Joe Biden wasn't elected, but that doesn't mean that they wish that Trump was elected. They probably just wish there were other options. Much like in Canada, right now, today, I wish there were other options. I'm hoping that the Liberal government decides on a better option, that, or even any of the other political parties decide on a better option.
But
you don't have no options. I don't think the fact that Joe Biden is elect right now has any indicator on whether or not people believe that, they should elect Trump. I don't think that's the case. I think that people did not want Trump to be elected, and they picked Joe Biden. But now they don't like Joe Biden.
You got to look at what's going on in the Republican primaries, man. The Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. Like there's all of the people in the Republican Party right now that were like Liz Cheney is a name that's going around now. This is the former vice president's daughter, right? Dick Cheney under Bush. This is the guy who went into the Middle East, bombed the shit out of people, pretty transparent oil-based war. Like, this guy's a bad hombre. And she's on the January 6th committee, making it a bipartisan committee. She's not going to get reelected. The primaries right now for the Republican Party, it's where the Republicans decide who's going to run against the Democrats in their area. Yeah. Everyone that Trump says should win wins, landslides. It's not even fucking close. The Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. So this isn't a situation where anyone's going to run against Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wants the Republican candidacy, he's got it. And I would argue that right now, with everything that's going on in the world, the election is a no-brainer.
What I'm saying is if the next election, when it comes up, which is not coming up, but the next election when it comes up, if they pick someone who is confident, smart, is a man of the people, is trying to help in ways that are relevant to the people, I think a Democrat win is easy. But if they pick another Joe Biden, then you're absolutely right. Trump wins.
Yeah. The problem is that I think that the Democrats have overplayed their hands. First of all, and I very much do believe this, that liberalism, which is a leftist ideology, which is the Democrat Party of the United States, is a very power-constraining ideology. So when you believe in big government, you believe in the powers that go along with big government, and therefore you believe in the authority that goes along with the big powers that goes along with the big government. So
that is the argument that you use, but no, we believe in like Medicare for all, and
those are all synonyms for bigger government.
Sure. So the government controls some of these things. I understand what you're saying, but that's not the basis on which we're not trying to say that that's what we want. We're trying to say that what we want is all people to have the same rights and the same freedoms and the same access to healthcare and to legal
but dictated by who?
Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter who you are. You have the same rights. That's what I'm trying to do. Right?
All of those rights are provided by
the government.
Right. So that, like, at the end of the day,
the people elect.
Right. But there is a fundamental differentiation between liberalism, right? And again, that liberalism, the party of liberalism is the Democrats, and republicanism or more nationalism, which is to pull away from large government. Most Republicans are fairly anti-government control of anything, right? They want the government to manage the military. They want the governments to manage maybe the roads, policing. That's it. Healthcare should not be. All of these things should be allowed for your own choices, your own processes to decide what you want to do with this stuff, right? And that is a fundamental process for the right, if you will, right? Because we're right. But at the end of the day, if you believe in bigger and more government, you get these power struggles and these power structures that are brought from that. So when you get an outsider like Donald Trump, who was an outsider, he was a Democrat before, but he was an outsider to the political spectrum. He blew all that up. He showed how fragile that was, right? You don't have to like him. Like lots of things. We shattered it. They couldn't believe that they got beat. The system that they were implementing was not supposed to be.
He was elected, is what you were saying.
He was elected. That should not have happened. There was no way Donald Trump should ever. They used to come out and say, they're like, you will never be president.
I believe I lost $350 because of that election. So it's a little tender for me as well.
Right.
And I had to wear a hat that I did not like wearing for any reason.
Exactly.
Neither did our waiter. I believe our waiter spit in my steak.
Yeah. But I had a lovely keg dinner.
I had a terrible keg dinner. Because I was wearing a bright red hat that said "Make America Great Again."
No, it was blue. It just said Trump.
Oh, was it blue? I don't remember. I just remember it was like awful and painful, and I still like have PTSD from it. And the poor waiter, like I remember as the waiter walked up, they were not happy with me.
Well, yeah.
So I understand, because I was like, there is no way you could put a popsicle stick up against Trump and Trump loses. And I was wrong. Very much wrong.
And I at the time, I remember having the conversations with you and saying is that you have to understand the political undercurrent that Trump was tapping into. And those people were the deplorables, the basket of deplorables that Clinton used to come out and say. And people kind of looked around and they're like, who the fuck are you? And they rose up by the millions and they said, nah. And that, like, you don't have to like Trump, but that 4 years, the day he was elected, was the closest thing we had to the people's actual choice that we've had in a very long time. Everything else have been very old families, very old traditions, very brought up through the ranks.
I understand what you're saying. They were, even in Canada, if you're a legacy of political, like right now, Trudeau, he got elected because he's pretty and he was a Trudeau, and Trudeau was a good leader, right?
Right.
Yeah. So no, I understand that, and Trump did not come from politics at all, other than he made a lot of money and obviously had influence over politics. I would
right. And he very overtly said that. He goes, all these politicians come to me when they want money. I can get anything I want done. He explained to people the game, and then he played the game. Yeah. Right. And that was like,
and he won.
And he fucking won. Like at the end of the day. Yeah. And there's lots of people that think he won the second time too. Right. There's a lot of people
that didn't, but I understand that there are people out there that believe he did, but he did not. No, Biden is the president and won legitimately. But no, you're right. I think now we're kind of talking in circles like we did before this all happened. I will say, and this is kudos to Pat and his genius, I would say like 5-6 months before Trump ever said, I'm going to run for president, Pat came to me and said, you know who Trump is? I'm like, oh yeah, like he's the guy who fires people. And he's like, he's running for president and he's going to be the president of the United States. I'm like, what? You're smoking crack, buddy. And we had that argument until all of a sudden he was on the podium with I think there were 50 other Republicans, and he tore them down piece by piece. And I'm like, no, he's not even going to, like, no, like it's a joke. There's no way and then he was the running for president. What's that called? When you run, you're not
candidate. He was the candidate.
Yeah. And then it was, but still, like, yeah, he became the candidate, but no, there's no way. In fact, I'm going to bet you. Yeah. And then the bet I remember every week it was like, oh, okay. So like, we're going to do a cake dinner. So now you got to wear a hat. And I'm like, okay, now you got to tell the waiter and everyone you see that night how great Hillary is and tell me like legitimate reasons why Hillary is amazing. And then the bet, I can't remember. There was another piece of that bet that I'm not proud of. And yeah. But if you go back, I'm just telling you, that kind of like missiled me. I had no idea. I was so wrong. And it's because he watches this stuff and he knows it. He knows what he's saying. And I'm gonna say that in that time, I still don't know how it happened. I'm so confused.
So I'm going to take that subtle applause as what it is, and I'm just going to leave it at that. James is a gentleman and a scholar, and he upheld his word to a point where I probably would not have. He was a gentleman and a scholar about it all. But yes, and I appreciate him bringing that up now to just clarify that this is all horse shit, and I'm telling you here, folks. So.
There was a moment that I was worried I was going to get shot. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, the only black waiter at the keg was problematic.
And we live in a very, very liberal town. Very liberal town. You wouldn't even, like, I don't think there was another hat within 100 miles of our town, our city.
A Trump hat?
Yeah.
Well, fuck, there wouldn't be. At that time, it was a thing. Yeah. Like, my cousin brought it back from a golf trip. Like, and she thought it was me, right? Yeah. I sit at the table with it on, right? Yeah. There probably wouldn't have been 50 of them in the country.
No.
James.
Yeah. Having to proudly, because I wasn't allowed to say that was part of the bet. I wasn't allowed to say I wasn't a Trump supporter.
Right.
At no point was I allowed to say, and I didn't.
You did it with a smile, man. I was, and the problem is James is. It's hard to tell on here, but James got like a big head, so he's got a little hat on and a big. Yeah, it looked fantastic. Yeah. Well, folks, I think we're hitting that hour mark. We'll wrap it up here. Obviously, everything we say here is conjecture. And what we do is we put out information. We play it the way that we see it. Obviously, I'm always right. So that, James just kind of goes along for the bus ride anyway. So I appreciate that. Yeah. All these things and these implications, they have different implications for us here in Canada. And, a lot of ways I'm very gracious and glad that we live in the country that we live in. We have our own problems, very messed up problems. But I'm hoping that, we see what we see in the States and we're able to play with that and understand it and make better decisions. So I think right now the United States is a bit of a burning schoolhouse. They got to get their shit together. How they're doing it right now is very problematic. And you kind of wonder at the end of the day, like, what kind of powder keg is ready to pop off? But
yeah, it's not good. It's just more division. And I keep on preaching. Yeah, we have to stop dividing each other. We got to stop pointing at each other for our differences. And we have so many similarities. I just like to take this time, not that anybody's going to be watching at this point in the time. We have Killer Kate. I'm told that's her nickname. She comes in tomorrow night. She lost 140 pounds. She's a motivational speaker on Instagram. She talks about losing weight. I think she's going to be a delight. Neither Pat or I have met her. Like this whole live thing is so exciting that we're starting to meet these interesting people that other people are bringing to us. I'm really excited to talk to Kate. Kate and I have had a similar journey where we both lost a lot of weight. She did it differently than I. So I think it's going to be a fun talk tomorrow, and I hope you all come and see it.
I'm going to eat Doritos and chips and cake and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you go ahead. We will not. Yeah. Right. We'll probably be like lifting weights, and maybe I'll run while I do it.
Yeah.
One of these. How's that?
Have you seen the guy that does the green screen stuff like all over?
Oh, yeah.
Got a big screen behind him.
And, the one who's boxing during the meeting?
Boxing. Yeah. Skiing. I think he did one that he was skiing. Yeah. But he's in like a conference like this in a meeting, right? So
yeah. It's funny stuff. Yeah.
I love it.
Let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together and come tomorrow night because you don't want to miss that. It's going to be life-changing, I believe.
Life-changing indeed. As always, folks, thank you for joining us. Soaring Profits, Patrick. Let's make some money together, guys.